Hello, hello, hello. Let me undo this. And good evening, Visibility Vibers. Sorry for the late joining of this call. I'm hoping that the internet connection is going to stay strong because I've had some sort of weird outage in the last sort of 15 minutes. So anyway, my name's Jenny Kovacs. Welcome to this Tuesday edition of Visibility Made Easy. Now, Visibility Made Easy has been designed especially with you in mind. You're a busy business owner or you're aspiring to start a business, yet you've got this job and this business that you're trying to juggle. Maybe you've taken on a nice meaty contract and you're so busy that you're forgetting that you need to go out and let other people know that you're here, that you're available and that you can help them and work with them. Maybe you're trying to order your life a bit. Hey Ian, evening. Thank you for hanging around and waiting for the internet to do its stuff. And maybe you are a business owner that's looking for a little bit more freedom in your life. It could be that you're a parent of children. It could be that you're at the other side of the spectrum where you're wanting to put your feet up a bit, spend time maybe with the grandkids, with your loved ones, doing the stuff that you love and not working and grinding your nose to the ground. So if you've never joined one of these before, then by all means, do feel free to share. Hey! So Alan says, hi Jenny, hi Ian. Do feel free to share this video with anybody else you think might need it, especially tonight's episode. Now, in the Visibility Vibes tribe, many of you have heard me mention, which is the closed Facebook group where you can all have a conversation after these Facebook episodes finish and after they've happened, is there is a little theme that runs through the veins of today, and that theme has got to do with something that I experienced right here last night. Now, before you all get excited, I want to say, as the old advert used to say on the TV, don't make a drama out of a crisis, but I want to address something that is possibly the number one reason people cite for wanting to remain under the radar. Some people refer to it as tall poppy syndrome, but often people don't want to stand out for this very reason, and it's because they're afraid of the feedback of what they're going to get online. They're afraid of putting themselves out there because they don't want to be open to ridicule. Maybe they are self-conscious about how they look, how they sound, how they form their words. Maybe they've got some sort of mark or something that they are trying to get to grips with. Maybe they're worried about their background. Maybe they're worried about their skill set. And either way, I know the one thing that we all have in common is that we don't want somebody else making a comment on how we show up online. Now, although you can probably see the post that's up here where I responded to somebody who sent me quite a few messages last night, today's focus isn't actually on that piece. If you want to know more about that and how to deal with stuff like that, then by all means, do search the Visibility Vibes Tribe Facebook group. Click to join. Once you request to join, I'll let you in gladly. And you'll be able to see the Tuesday talking tip, which I did just this afternoon, a few hours ago, on that very subject. But what I want to cover is, how do you deal with these sorts of things online? So what I am going to do, apparently I can write a comment and pin it to the top. So that is exactly what I'm going to do while you're watching. So if you want to know how to handle uninvited comments and messages that you get from people either online or in the flesh, then I'm going to see if I can pin that. I believe I can. Maybe not. Then I'm going to show you anyway. So first of all, for those of you that are watching, again, I can see a number count, but I can't see who you are. So thank you to Alan and Ian for saying hello, not only to me, but to each other and anyone else who hops on. If you've got any questions about anything that I've got to say, bear in mind this is a public page, so it'd be a wise idea not to say, Mark Smith said this to me on Tuesday night. But if you've got any questions or any concerns about anything that you've actually received or are in the middle of dealing with, please, type your question below and I'll be happy to answer. So I shared something that I think would be really, really useful with you guys that are watching this live and on the replay. Now, in my Visibility Vibe Tribe group, I often talk about the head, the heart and the hands. And what does that mean? Well, it's something that I kind of discovered within my own teachings and my own trainings. It's not something that I've heard somebody say out there and kind of made it into my own. But I recognise through my own observations of people that do things really well and people that kind of get buried under the weight of things and can't get stuff done. I recognise very much that there are three elements at play. The head, the bit that does the logic, the thinking, the making sense of it all, and sometimes it internalises it for us as to whether we think it's good, bad or indifferent. The heart is the place of passion. It's almost like the place that we feel into things. It's around the body, yes, but it's really in the heart that we get a sense check. And even by standing and talking to you right now and just doing this, not to say that my heart spreads all across my chest, but just doing this really gives me a sense of connecting back in with what's important, what makes a difference, and that kind of thing. Oh, and thank you, Alan, for sharing the video. Alan is known as the rough seas coach because he takes you from rough seas to calm waters. I hope I've got that right, Alan. So one of the things that people then go on to do is like, well, once you've got this debate, normally the head debate starts as a worry or a concern or something that you're mulling over. The heart debate feels almost like a tug of, I really feel like I should do this, but is it the right thing to do? When you're having those conversations, I really feel like this is the right thing, but is it the right thing to do? Goes back to the head. Then you feel into it, it feels like the right thing to do, but should I do it because no one else does it and because this person says it, and it goes back to the head. So you have this dance. Eventually, when you've come to a decision on it, it goes to the hands. And what do I mean by that? The hands are what you actually do about it, whether it's what you actually do about it for yourself or whether it's what you do about it for other people. So if you are finding that you are having some uninvited comments or uninvited messages, whether it's right here on this platform or anywhere else online, it could be in a forum, it could even be when you go to your local networking, that you've just got some, some dodgy things. And let me share a story. I'm going to share an offline story with you tonight because I want to sort of give some context. I don't just train about visibility online. I train people to be visible offline in various different ways. Now, I love networking. In fact, I started my entrepreneurial journey in 2010, and maybe it was my corporate background. I worked in financial services. I was used to sitting at the boardroom table. I was used to conducting meetings, speaking to managers, senior managers, riffing with the sales team and talking to the marketing teams. Perhaps I felt comfortable in that corporate environment, which I know many of you actually do. You might not work in it now, but you do feel comfortable in that environment. And I remember when I went to start being self-employed, I knew I needed to network. So I think I might have even Googled to see where could I network. And I lived very, very close to Gatwick Airport. So it's a nice big window when I lived there that I could go into London in like half an hour. I could go down to Brighton. I could go into Sussex. I could go further deeper into Surrey. I had the lovely M25 when it moves in my car with the traffic where it would just be amazing. So at that time, I remember thinking, well, when I go out into business, I need to find people that understand business. I knew exactly what I wanted to do in terms of training and coaching, and true story, in 2010, my business was training and coaching on one hand, cakes and chocolates on the other. In fact, the local electrician who actually ran the local business group that I was in was one of my best customers. Him and his lovely wife, who I'm still connected to on Facebook to this day, used to buy lots and lots of cakes from me and chocolates, homemade chocolates from me. So when they went off to get married, I was honoured beyond belief when I was asked to make some cakes for their wedding and for their guests and character cakes and things like that. But I digress. When I started my business, I decided I was going to go and do the kind of proper networking. So I went to places like the B&I. I subbed or substitute for people just to get a feel for it and what it was like. I was very comfortable in that environment. But first of all, I actually started off in the Chamber of Commerce. So I went to the Chamber of Commerce meeting, met the lovely electrician that I mentioned before, and then very quickly went on to also join the local business group there. You know, we had expos, we had speakers. I was a speaker once. I did some training there, helped them on Twitter, and just really to be able to put my hand on how to help people connect. So I've always been really comfortable in that environment. And one of the reasons that people don't like going to networking, they think it's too stuffy and formal. That's number one. They often think, well, I haven't got business cards. Before I can do something like that, I need business cards or people aren't going to take me seriously. Another reason that they sometimes do it is that they're worried about, like, well, my website isn't done, isn't good enough, isn't finished. And depending on your local businesses and local networks, that's not always the case either. And then the next thing that people often cite is, oh, I've got to do that 60-second pitch. It, you know, fills me with dread. I don't know what to say. And then the last one is, it's a combination between I don't like standing up in front of people, which is kind of connected to the 60-second pitch, but not always the 60-second pitch. And the other thing was, like, just that whole standing up in front of a room of people, them all looking at me, me having to say something, or walking into that room full of people, not knowing anybody, not knowing where to look, not knowing what to say. So there are various different tips and techniques to get over and around that. So if you do want to hear about any of those in any forthcoming Visibility Made Easy editions, which are going Monday to Friday until the end of March, and then the schedule will be revised, because I do 10 Facebook Lives a week. That's a lot of Facebook Lives, and I want to honour your time and still give you great value and great content. So I've got some really exciting things that are coming up from April onwards that are going to, like, just be juicy around the Facebook Lives, but I digress. So if you want to hear anything about, you know, how to approach live networking events, you might not be nervous about networking in any way, but you maybe want to make them more effective so that you connect with people, you engage with people, and you get to know a bit about each other, you know, make them work for you. You might want to know a bit more about those 60-second pitches. You might want to know a bit more about where the best place to network is for your business, especially if you're looking for local business. Yes, you can do a lot of stuff online, but wouldn't it be nice to be really effective in networking locally to where you are too? If you want to know anything like that, then definitely stick a comment below. Let me know. Tag me in, Jenny, the Queen of Being Seen, or the Queen of Being Seen, Jenny Kovacs, and it will alert to my attention and alert my phone, and I will promise to come back and acknowledge that normally within 12 hours, but usually I do it quite quickly, unless I'm asleep. So I was always used to networking. As I said, I'd gone to the local Chamber of Commerce. I was an active member of that Chamber of Commerce. Some of you watching this might even remember or know me from there. I used to take part in a lot of expos they had. I was a guest speaker for them. I used to teach, do, you know, different training chunks, and I loved doing that. So I was very surprised that 5 years in, and not even in the same area, I was now in Kent, and I went along to an evening networking, and I had a very, very unusual but different experience. And I want to show you how the head, the heart and the hands came into play to help me navigate that. And it's interesting because at the time I didn't consciously realise that's what I was doing, using those three elements. So I went along to this networking event, actually went along with somebody that I knew quite well. You know, we were downstairs in the bar area having a great chat, finding out about people's businesses, you know, asking lots of questions and just really, you know, having these little side conversations. We went up to the room, went round to do our 60-second pitches, which we did, and then we had the opportunity to focus on any business problem that we were having. We could focus on a business problem, we could kind of, you know, drill down, find out a bit more, and it was good, it was great. Until it came round to my turn. Now, I won't bore you with the details of what happened, but suffice to say was that when it came round to my turn to ask the question, I didn't have a question to ask. And what followed next felt really uncomfortable. It felt like I got a grilling. So given that I hadn't asked a question, all of a sudden I had all these different people kind of shouting their opinions, well, literally telling me their opinions, and it was definitely uninvited because I didn't have a question. And they were, you know, rather than asking me supplementary questions, they were saying, well, I don't think, I mean, visibility, what is that? That's really vague. What is it, you know, what is it you do? I suggest that you look at this website. This will give you a good idea of what you do. they hadn't even seen my website, didn't even know the name of my business or my company, and it felt very, very uncomfortable. Even for me, who is quite at home in that kind of environment, whether it's a male-dominated environment or not, whether it's a high pressurized environment, fast-moving, fast-paced, or, you know, very demanding, even for me, I felt uncomfortable. So here's what unfolded. The first person went to give me, and I use air quotes, feedback. And as they started speaking, I felt like I was being verbally attacked, is the only way that I could describe it. I looked at the lady that was sat next to me, who was like shaking her head and looking down, and I thought, okay, I'm not imagining this. I looked over at my friend who was sat further down in the room, and she was kind of just watching what was unfolding. And this person went on and went on, and this sounds so silly, but I remember this. I had I have an iPad mini with a little keyboard so it can kind of stand up and look like a computer. Got to the stage where I felt so uncomfortable with what was being said that I thought, okay, there's two things I can do here. Well, in fact, three things. I can say, please stop. Second thing I could do is I could answer or argue back, but given how I was feeling, I wouldn't have come off very well. Or for me, the third option felt like just getting up and saying, I've had enough of this, I don't have to listen to this, packing up my things and going. But I felt that if I'd done any of those in a room full of people, I wouldn't be seen in a very great light. You know, come on, let's face it, this is networking, this is connecting. And I'm quite an easygoing person. There's not many people that I either meet first off and don't like, or meet and don't build up a great rapport with. So as this person streamed their abuse, my head kicked in. My head kicked in with this weird logic that actually served me well. And if you want to read more about Weird and Wonderful on a completely different topic, do look down underneath this post, and you'll see a post that I wrote on Monday. It's a really great post, and if you've got other friends that are in business, do share that with them too, because I think it will resonate on many levels. So my head kicks in, so I thought, I know, keep yourself occupied while this verbiage kind of like comes at you. So I remember I sat, and on my iPad I started just typing down what they were saying. I was quite incredulous and thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're saying that. But it's almost like my head needed something to do to stop me from going, rah! And I don't do that very often. In fact, I often joke that I lose my temper once every 7 years or so. It's a very rare sight. It just doesn't happen that often. So I just typed down what they said. And all the time, still in my head, I'm like, I can't believe they're actually saying that. So I'm typing it down. So after that finished, the next person went, and they kind of followed the lead from the first person. Well, if that person can say that, then I'm going to say this. So before long, there was 1, 2, 3 people, 4 people that went through with this very in-your-face feedback. The 5th person was actually sat next to me, and I just went, what on earth is going on here? And actually said, I don't have anything to add, and kind of passed. The lady next to me made a comment that she didn't feel that the way in which I was spoken to was appropriate. And as a woman in this environment, there were more men in the room than women. She felt it was shocking and added some, questions and asked me a few things. So this is where the heart kicked in. The heart kicked in because if I hadn't have let my heart kick in and my passion for what I do really shine, I could have thrown a chair to the side, stormed out, but I didn't. I sat and just for that week remembered the gorgeous, gorgeous clients that I feel so blessed to work with, the things that they achieve in the world, even though sometimes they're frightened, the things they achieve in the world, even though sometimes they don't know how to do the thing or how to be or how to best get visible. The juicy conversations I have when I sit and speak to them and they come to me with a problem and I hope I come to them with a solution. The way in which they interact with me in a far different way than this guy had and subsequently these other guys had done in the room. I thought about them, and in that moment, in thinking about them, I kind of settled into myself, if that makes sense. So my first thought to speak back wasn't one of lashing out, wasn't one of anger, wasn't one of, having a go at them or anything else like that. It was just of the response. And all I simply said was, I'm really surprised at some of the feedback, given that you don't know me or my business, and many of us, haven't got chance to kind of go deeper yet. But thank you for your feedback. Your comments are most welcome. Nice customer service tip that I learned. Thank you for your feedbacks. Your comments are most welcome. If you're feeling any barbs, any kind of funky vibes, any weirdness, you can say that, and the person receiving it takes it as a thank you for your feedback. If you're not happy with it, it's enough for you to thank them. Your feedback's welcome, but you don't have to do anything more with it. Make sense? If that makes sense, give me a thumbs up or a love heart, so I know that I'm not talking gobbledygook. And if that doesn't make sense and you've got another question, do type it in the box, because I'll wrap the story up in a moment with what happens with the hands. So thank you for that. Excellent. So then the next piece was, okay, so having thought of those, I was able to give a response. I was able to, I didn't sit there, although to be honest with you, it's the first time ever, or it was the first time ever, and this was like 5 years in. It was the first time I'd ever gone to any kind of networking event and felt like bursting into tears. Really, and not even in a good way. So I was able to give this nice response back. Thank you for your comments. Your feedback's most welcome. I didn't appreciate how those comments were received, but I'll, move on so the next person can have their go. So the hands is like what to do next. So obviously everyone else goes around the room. A couple of people made comments to the way they thought I was spoken to. Until, ironically, sometimes you don't know what your next step is until the next step is shown to you. And the next step was shown to me by the very same person who started off this very harsh line of hard fire. They needed to ask a question, and guess what? Karma has a very good sense of humour, because the very question they asked was something that I knew about inside up, inside out, upside down, back to front, and I could have spoken for hours on. I chose not to. So they posed the question, people went round the room, I asked supplementary questions, always a very good idea to make sure that you've got clarity in what the person is actually asking of you, and that you've understood them and they've understood that you've understood them. And then everyone went round and offered their bit, and I said, well, I happen to have very good experience of this. I've done this, I've done that, I've worked in this field, I've worked with this person, so hope you've got pen and paper because I've got a lot to say. And gave them the answer. Now that sounds like a strange thing to do next. I could have sat there, crossed my arms, sulked and said I didn't like the way you spoke to me or anything else like that. However, I didn't. So what I just did was used my hands in that particular element to make use of somebody that had been a bit less than kind to me. And at that moment, I remember looking round, and a couple of people kind of looked a bit amazed. Oh, we didn't realise that you knew about this, or that you worked in that area, that you did this and did that. And the guy who was leading the networking event actually said, gosh, I think I've learnt more about you in the last few minutes than I'd known this evening. At which point, okay, I'm not perfect. The barbs came out a bit, and I said, well, thank you very much. That's probably the first time that you actually listened to me, but I'll take that. And the evening went on. So what else did I do with my hands after that evening? Afterwards, when everyone milled around, I think the guy realised that he'd been a bit kind of tough, came over, oh, let's connect on LinkedIn, and this, that and the other. And I was able to tell him calmly that I didn't appreciate the way that he'd spoken to me. It felt really tough. He says he didn't realise it was so tough. And after the meeting, I actually used my hands to calm myself down and to send a message to the organiser, which said, I was there, you were there. That felt very uncomfortable to me. Other people voiced the discomfort and the disdain at what went on. As the person that organised the group, I was really surprised that you allowed that to continue on your watch. Not a lot we can do now, but I just want you to know I was so disappointed with that I will not be attending this or any of your networking meetings again. And I certainly cannot recommend to send people there to be on the receiving end of what you said. So I verbalised it. And the reason I did that is there's this propensity that when something goes on like that, that we kind of hide and we don't come out and say it or speak it or voice it. You can either shout back at them, which of course nobody listens to, or you can let them know in an articulated way, in a measured way. And I chose to do that. I chose to be articulate, I chose to be measured, and I chose to pop it in writing. Whilst I also visibly copied in a couple of other people who'd made the comment. The guy didn't see it, but that was fine. I'd said my piece, and I unfortunately have never attended that networking group ever since. It's not a big famous networking group, and it's in a certain region of the country, which I shall keep to myself so as not to publicly, do any damage. But the point I want to raise here is that at any given time we always have a choice, and my recommendation with any difficult conversations, any uninvited comments or messages that you either get on here or offline is that you use your head, your heart and your hands. It will give you the thinking time and the breathing space you need to respond appropriately. But also remember that if someone is being abusive and making you feel particularly uncomfortable, part of what you can do is let them know that. And if they're being very abusive, you don't have to interact with them. Here's the thing. You've got a Facebook page, you've got Facebook groups, you've got Facebook timeline. If anybody puts any post that you're uncomfortable, unhappy with, really fights against your views, you consider homophobic, racist, or anything else like that, simply delete. Simply delete, forget about it, and move on. Don't give it any time, don't give it any drama, don't give it any energy. And as I said to my lovely vibers in my earlier call, if you find yourself getting overly upset, it's likely that you've taken what's outside into your inside, internalised it, and made it into something, unwittingly, made it into something worse than it was. Let's face it, sometimes it's only language, but there's never any reason to tolerate anything that you wouldn't accept for yourself, for your children, for your loved ones, or for your family. So when the going gets tough, the head says, I don't like this, the heart says, fair enough, you think that is the thing to do, but I disagree. And the hand says, delete. End of story. If you feel really strongly that you want to tell them how inappropriate it is, tell them. And if you come across or encounter anything that's done online and done in secret, so maybe the person's sending you private messages and, saying inappropriate things there, my first thought was just to take a screenshot and make it public, but actually I wouldn't go there. Come out and talk about it publicly. Let people know. Don't allow it to be in that container of behind closed doors. Bring it out into the open and have a sensible conversation about it. I hope that's been helpful to you. If it's been helpful in any way, definitely give me a thumbs up or a love heart. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. And if anything that I say resonated with you, maybe brought something up that you want to speak about a bit more, go over to the Visibility Vibes Tribe Facebook group where you can join in the conversation there. Just post a question on the wall. I really don't mind you posting questions at any time. I just ask that you don't post your links and things to the wall, because you should be able to explain what's behind any post that you've got without doing that. And you'll also notice that I never do it either. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, and thank you for being here. Lots of love to you. I'll see you same time tomorrow on this page where we do some more Visibility Made Easy. But if you're keen to get some questions in, get your questions answered, tomorrow in the same group, the Visibility Vibes Tribe Facebook group at 10 AM UK time, I will be answering your questions on all things visibility. So whether it's about being more visible, whether it's about making videos and producing your videos, whether it's about how you make an impact and get remembered, whether it's about describing what you do in a way that people get, whether it's about speaking from the stage, whether it's about selling your products, your value or your services, and how to juggle it all so that your head doesn't explode and you don't feel overwhelmed. If that's you, then come on over and join other juicy vibers where I'll be answering any questions that you care to post live in the group. Thank you so much for joining me. Lots of love to you. Good evening. I'm off to get my dinner. Lots of love and bye for now. Thank you for the love hearts and the thumbs up as well. I really appreciate them.